Prince Harry is having a bit of a meltdown after details of his meeting with his father leaked, likely by his camp. And of course, Prince Harry cannot help but to self sabotage because the whole point of the meeting and any interaction with his father at this point and his brother is to prove that Prince Harry can keep confidences. But what does he do? He immediately runs to the press. And in this particular situation, I feel like Harry is completely, utterly sabotaging himself and any hopes of reconciliation he had because he can't seem to do the simplest thing in the world, which is just to keep his mouth shut. So we shall get into all this today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I do provide compelling real commentaries. If you want to hit that subscribe button, I would love to have you back. And you usually see my lovely smiling face, but I am actually traveling right now, enjoying some time with some of our lovely Royal News Network family members. And so if you guys are interested in future trips, there will be upcoming, but we are having a fantastic time. However, this whole meltdown is just absolutely crazy. And it started with the son. And Harry, again, I feel like he's done the thing he shouldn't have done, which he always does, which is talk a little bit too much and want to respond to everything in the press. Because the big thing here is the problem remains for Harry is that he cannot seem to let negative media stories go. And so he fuels them by endlessly talking about them or trying to quote unquote set the record straight when the best thing to do is to let it ride and die. Instead, he inflames the narrative. He talks more, and so the press are looking into it more now. And I feel like he confirms at least maybe some of what happened in this meeting based on the reporting from the Sun. And it doesn't matter who leaked it. What matters, what Harry should do, is shut up. So, one thing the guy cannot seem to do to save his ever loving life is to keep his mouth shut because this is his problem right now. And if he wants a reconciliation with his family, he needs to learn the very beautiful art of being quiet. It just doesn't seem to be something he learned in kindergarten, preschool, or at any point in his life. And I think it's fueled by Megan and this kind of dumb, inane belief that you need to constantly correct the negative media narratives that are out there. But I'm sorry, but then the narratives will always be negative. You maybe won't ever get away from that. And unfortunately for Harry and Meghan, they've kind of established this case of everything being negative. And so what Harry needs to do here is not to fuel the negative, but to let everything ride and then die. But again, the poor soul that Harry is, he cannot help himself. And you only have another example, which is The Guardian, to show that it's not the palace sabotaging Harry, it's not the press sabotaging Harry, it's Harry, because it doesn't matter what somebody else does. It matters what you do. So let's get into it. So it says the reunion of Prince Harry and King Charles saw them swap presents and kisses on the cheek, but there were no plans for the future the Sun can reveal. So, like I said, this came from the Sun after a 53-minute summit. I hate how they keep having to like inflate these meetings. It was a summit. No, it was just a father and son meeting. Let's be clear. It says wild rumors circulated that the pair had discussed Harry resuming some royal duties on a half and half out basis. And this was what was corrected by the record last week. I think by Charles's team going, he's not coming back. Like, please stop talking about that. He's not coming back. We don't want him back. I mean, I think he wants back. Nobody wants him back. I think he's having a hard time with it, which is why Charles had to say something. And it goes down to say, however, we can now reveal the pair's sit down earlier this month was distinctly formal, and there is no prospect of Harry returning to the family fold. Harry was surprised by the formalities of his recent reunion with the king and even joked he felt more like an official visitor than a family member we can reveal. And I actually do believe that. And the reason it was more formal is that at this point you can't trust him. So you can't have a more formal meeting. It had to be something that was a little private and a little, let's say, distant and cold because you can't really develop a relationship with him right now, you have to keep him at a distance. And that is what the royal family did. It said he handed his father a framed photograph of their children, Archie and Lilibet, to mark the reunion. But Harry and Meghan were not in the family photo. Sources close to Harry this morning denied that Harry has said or believed that the reunion was like being an official visitor. And so number 2, okay, so you exchanged a photograph. Who gives a crap? He should already have a bunch of photographs. If you're not giving your father photographs, then you're a horrible, terrible person, Prince Harry. That's you and your wife. This is not this is inane stuff. But then it's like, oh, he had to deny he felt like an official visitor. Well, you probably kind of were because you're not in the confidence anymore. They do have to keep you somewhat at a distance. They do have to treat you a little bit differently. And so that he, again, doesn't seem to quite understand that is very interesting. And it goes on to say the spokesman, of course, had to hit out saying, while we would have preferred that elements of the meeting, such as the exchange of gifts, was not revealed, for clarification purposes, gifts were exchanged and a photo of from the Duke to his father was given, but not of him and his wife. Why do you have to say any of this? This is stupid talk. Don't talk about this stuff because basically it's confirming that the article that the Sun revealed really bothered you. It really, really bothered you. And so you had to, of course, correct the idiocy of whether or not you gave him a framed picture of your kids with you or without you. Why? Why do we need to know any of those details? That is unbelievably pointless. And I just look at this and go, what are you doing? Like, seriously, what is the point of this? Who is running this show behind the scenes when it comes to their PR? Because this is terrible PR work, in my personal opinion. I'm sure their PR team goes out of their minds with the two of them, and I see it reflected here. You should just keep this quiet. There is no reason to talk about any of this because once you do, once you insert yourself into the narrative, you make the story worse, not better. And if Charles doesn't understand at this point that Harry cannot exercise self control, he has a real problem on his hands in like so many different ways. And so it kind of goes on to say the Duke was understood to have described this meeting with his father as very official, like an official visit. Insiders said the awkward exchange was carried out in a similar style to that of dignitaries and visitors at the royal residences, which again makes sense. Harry is not a working member of the royal family anymore. He's barely a member of the family overall in terms of his relationship. So why in the world would they give him like a grand audience? No, no. So then, of course, because of this alleged sabotage by insiders that Harry is claiming, we had to get more details about like everything. So again, this is from the Sun. It says Prince Harry's spokesman said categorically not. Harry is not trying to drive a wedge between the Prince of Wales and the King, which to me seems to imply that he's trying to drive a wedge between his father and his brother. And the reason is that you don't need to say anything. Yes, the media is going to say stupid stuff. Just ignore it. That's what I have to do on social media. People say stupid things and I just ignore it 9/10 of the time. You just ignore it and it goes away or it just slows down. Like so many different things. Why in the world do you need to say, oh, we're not driving a wedge? Well, it makes me think you want to drive a wedge. Because again, the answer here is very simple. Just be quiet about it. And of course, William through friends just responds and says, this is all rubbish. And that makes sense. But Harry's obviously spokesman had to make a statement about this. Whereas it's just a source close to Prince William. Again, it shows sort of where the emphasis is. Harry wants to control the narrative. This is actually something I didn't think about until I was talking about it, which is why it's fun to talk about things. But Harry here wants to control the narrative. And he is mad when somebody else says something that doesn't go with his narrative. He's much like his wife now. He can't seem to understand that not everybody is going to follow the prescribed Sussex narrative, that people might have another opinion, or that they might not care to follow what Harry and Meghan want to do. And the end result is, yeah, they may not be happy with what people say, and that's fine. That is perfectly, completely, 100,000% fine that Harry can't control everything. He wants to control everything. which is why, again, he's up a creek without a paddle because I don't think he's very good at controlling things, number one. But number two, don't try to control everything. When you do, number one, you drive yourself crazy because you can't, in certain situations, ever have full control. So if you're constantly trying to get something you can't have, you'll just go crazy. But number two, there's a lot of factors here that Harry is not by any means in control of. And he's living in a world where the press will always be there. And when the press is there, they'll do what the press does. And you won't like it, but you got to lump it. Harry can't seem to do that. And of course, we have even more details because Harry thinks that insiders are sabotaging his reconciliation with the king, according to Harry. Because, everything's about him. Maybe, some people just don't like him and just have zero desire to, let's say, support any reconciliation. But here's the additional bit. The statement said the quotes attributed to him are pure invention fed. One can only assume by sources intent on sabotaging any reconciliation between father and son. So we have like three different things now when it comes to quotes. It says, categorically not. Harry is not trying to drive a wedge between his father and his brother. The quotes attributed to him are wrong. And of course, he had his spokesperson also just deny everything in regards to the meeting and having to clarify what picture was given, basically. And this is excessive. I know most people aren't PR experts, but I find this to be incredibly excessive because it's like constantly like another thing pops up in the news and you have to clarify it. Another thing pops up in the news and you have to clarify it. Another thing pops up in the news and you have to clarify it. This is just insane. And we do have another quote down here that says, his statement added, while we would have preferred such details to remain private, for the sake of clarity, we can confirm the framed photograph was handed over. However, the image did not contain the Duke and Duchess. Again, why do we need to know this? The ridiculousness is insane, and the Sun stood by its claims. The newspaper said, in his statement, Prince Harry confirms the exchange of gifts, which basically confirms our story, including a family photograph. The office of the Duke of Sussex was given the full right to reply yesterday in advance of publication and opted not to give a response to the Sun's carefully sourced account of the meeting. They have today updated the online article to include his new statement. So we have multiple statements now from Harry clarifying things that didn't need to be clarified, basically confirming what the Sun already reported. Like, this is insane. But again, sadly, not a surprise. Harry has no self control at this point, and he is, I think, so incredibly angry and frustrated and trying to control something in his life. And I think he thinks it's going to be his father and his role in the royal family because he can't control his wife. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but when elements of your life are out of control, you have this incessant need to try and control things you think you can control. And I think when it comes to Harry, he really wants to control how this interaction went. He really wants to control how the public perceives him. But unfortunately, Harry is not going to succeed in this endeavor. This endeavor has always been and will always be doomed to failure. And the reason is Harry. Harry self-sabotages. His interview with The Guardian was insane. He didn't sound very grounded in reality. He seemed grounded in fantasy. He had this delusional belief that there's a whole section of the silent majority of Britons who want him back into the royal fold and have no issue with what he did to his family at all. He talked about his politics, apparently. He interfered in the diplomatic processes in the UK because apparently this numbskull really wants Vladimir Zelensky to fan out on him more than he wants weapons to help protect the people of Ukraine. This is how egotistical this guy is because he was asked not to go to Ukraine. He was asked not to meet with Vladimir Zelensky, and of course he did because this guy can't help himself. And of course, if you want to meet with Vladimir Zelensky in a particular circumstance, go for it. But when the British government asks you not to meet with him and asks Zelensky not to meet with him, and you want to reconcile with your father, then don't meet with the guy. But Harry has become so incredibly egotistical, so incredibly maniacal, and I think so incredibly out of control because his life has gone wildly negatively in so many different ways. This is not the world Harry envisioned for himself. This is not the life Harry envisioned for himself. This is a life of chaos, of instability, and of immense frustration. And when a narrative, just something as simple as a meeting with his father, is leaked in a way he doesn't want, he has to comment. When they clarify, he has to comment again. And he's commenting and clarifying and commenting and clarifying. It is a endless and needless fight and struggle. Harry would be best served by simply being quiet and trying to go by everything privately, because the problem Harry is having is that, again, and Charles should take this very seriously, but the biggest reality remains is that Harry can't seem to let family matters play out privately. When things don't go his way, he freaks out and needs to respond publicly. If Harry can't figure out the difference between public and private, there is no relationship Charles can have with him. There's just not. And I feel bad about that because obviously you don't want that for any father and son. But Charles leads a very public life, and Harry cannot tell the difference between public and private. We see this play out in Harry and Meghan's relationship. They constantly clinging to each other and hold hands. And there's nothing wrong with that. But Catherine and William, you will notice, hold hands privately and then don't publicly, because there's a difference between them as a private couple and them as a public couple. But Harry has become so enmeshed in the public being private and the private being public, he can't tell the difference anymore. And when he is close on the precipice of maybe reconciling with his father, which I will say again, I do support a personal reconciliation because I think that is positive for everyone involved. But Harry keeps self sabotaging. He can't seem to figure out the game here, which is not even really a game. It's just that keep family matters private. Keep your family conversations private. Even if they allegedly leak, say nothing. The Sun can say whatever it wants. Who cares if it's real? In fact, the Sun is doubling down, basically saying, yeah, our reporting is solid. What are you going to do about it? There's nothing really Harry can do. He can try to sue him again, but for what purpose? Harry needs to let go of this idea that he can control everything and instead just let the process play out naturally. Don't keep talking to the press. And maybe, just maybe, you might be able to have a relationship with your father. Perhaps, if he's still struggling under the immense burden of cancer for the rest of his life, maybe, just maybe, you can support him instead of making his life a misery. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this video, and I shall speak to you again very soon. Bye.